All right, the defendant has just returned to custody. Remember, he has not been out of jail, so he's going back to jail. Again, the jury in this case, they have determined no mercy recommendation, which means he faces life without parole. Sentencing in this matter has been set on October 4th at 11 a.m. The judge has ordered the typical pre-sentence report to be done, investigation to be done, and he also reminded the victims may choose to speak, so we may hear more additional testimony before the court for that sentencing. Still with me, Tammy Allison, former DOJ senior attorney and a former federal prosecutor. Let me ask you, Tammy, I noted when the judge said, all right, jury, go back to determine mercy or no mercy, it was 4:34. And at the time we went back live, because the jury was back in the courtroom, 4:53. So less than 19 minutes this jury was out making that decision. What does that mean to you, if anything, in terms of how they were thinking for this mercy decision?
I think the jury, like I said before we went to break, was paying attention to his movements, paying attention and recalling all of the testimony that they've heard throughout the past 4 days about this defendant's propensity for violence and what would happen if he was granted mercy and being eligible for parole after 15 years. And if the parole board were to grant it and he's back into society, he almost would probably definitely hurt someone because he has that propensity for violence, having almost run someone over in the past, having that 2009 conviction of sexual assault against a 14-year-old female, and here where he was convicted for first-degree murder of his neighbor. So I think that the jury, while they may have recognized the family attempting to move forward with that forgiveness, I think the jury did feel that he would be a danger to the community, and it didn't take them long to come up with that.
And I wonder, Jennifer Wells, prosecutor, still with us. I do wonder if the jury had already talked about this, because remember, the jury did come back with a question prior to them coming back with the verdict of first-degree murder. And in that question, the jury asked the judge, if we decide he's guilty of first-degree murder or not, do we have to decide mercy or no mercy? And so I almost wonder, Jennifer, if they'd already talked about it and made that decision before they heard additional testimony.
It definitely feels that way. I've found that question to be really interesting, that they came back with that question. Here in South Carolina, a judge would say, you will deal with sentencing when sentencing comes. And in fact, in South Carolina, our judges sentence, our juries have nothing to do with it except in a death penalty case. So I thought it was really interesting that the judge chose to give an instruction to them explicitly about how it would go down if they were to find the defendant guilty. When that question came out, I was like, that's going to be really interesting to see which direction this jury is thinking. Are they worried that they would be forced to not give mercy, or do they want to give him mercy? Where are they going with this? So obviously it was on their minds before they even rendered the guilty verdict in this case. There's no question they were talking about it back in the courtroom.
Yeah, I agree. And I have to just point out, ladies, here on the screen, this is live court. And you can see on the left in front of Joy Nakron with our court TV, right in front of her with the kind of blondish hair on the left, that is the mother of the victim in this case who testified. On the right, with the hair kind of up, who's now putting her arm around the mother of the victim, is the defendant's mother. And in front of her is the defendant's father. So it's been remarkable. We saw it a little bit before, but now look at it and how they are hugging and they have their arms around each other. Talk about grace and mercy and forgiveness. I mean, this is unbelievable to me. We saw this right after the testimony stopped, right after the victim in this case, after Travis Peters' mother testified for mercy or no mercy. She did this. She hugged then, and here they are. I mean, that is unbelievable. I see the back of them, and I feel like, oh, these are two family members in the same family who have lost one person. But no, we have the defendant and the victim's mothers. Truly, Tammy, I'm a little speechless. What do you think as you watch this scene unfold?
I think that the law in West Virginia is strange because the forgiveness, it is there and the healing process has begun. And, the judge ordering the pre-sentence investigation after the jury has recommended no mercy. ahead of the sentencing hearing, it's only putting the family again through more trauma, more turmoil, as they are already trying to move forward and move past this to get to that healing place of forgiveness, that mercy, right? The clemency, which all means forgiveness. But now they have to go back to court for the sentencing hearing. But it's like, what was the reason? Because the jury has already decided he's going to be facing life without parole. So to put these families through another hearing is hurtful, and as we see, they're already emotional with this verdict that came out from the jury. So it's emotional, and West Virginia law is just a little different than what I think any of us are used to seeing.
It is a little different. Every state is different, but we know typically there is a sentencing hearing, even for an offense, a conviction, when it may be there's no discretion by the court, such as life without parole, but they still have the pre-sentence report to learn more about the person who's been convicted. Perhaps they need services, perhaps they have other needs, but the judge does hear that, gives them another opportunity to speak. It'll be interesting to see, will there be more family members that choose to testify at the sentencing matter? They certainly could. We don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. So again, unfolding right there, you do see, and that is Court TV's own Joy Nacron, who has just hugged the the victim's mother, rather, that facing us with the glasses. We saw her testify. This is the mother of Travis Peters, and she testified. I tend to take copious notes because I'm just that kind of a trial nerd, but she testified her life will never be the same, that she misses him, and that he called her every single morning to check on her, to say hello, and that she will never hear his voice again, and she will never be the same. It's affected her physically because she said, I can't stop crying. I just cry all the time. So huge impact on her, the loss of her son. Not surprisingly, great sympathy, condolences to that entire family. But what a remarkable woman, quite frankly, that she's also been hugging the defendant's mother, the defendant's sister. We saw that earlier as we were watching this again unfold with everyone there in the courtroom.